It is 11:14 on a Tuesday night, and you are eating a gas station sandwich in a parking garage in downtown Chicago, watching a man who doesn't know you exist. Your name is Daniel Reyes. You are 31 years old. You have a Keurig that drips brown water on the counter, a studio apartment with a window that rattles when the L train passes, and a paralegal certificate you earned at night school while working 2 jobs after your mother's diagnosis swallowed your college fund whole. You are employed by a mid-sized litigation firm that uses you to surveil cheating spouses and ghostwrite deposition summaries for attorneys who never learn your last name. You are very good at finding things that people desperately do not want found. You do not think this is power. You think it is just pattern recognition. You think you are just watching. Then your phone rings. It's your manager, Carl, and his voice has a texture you have never heard before. Not excitement, not fear, something compressed between them. He tells you a client is requesting you by name. He tells you the retainer figure. You eat the last bite of your sandwich, and he says the number again. Your hand tightens on the phone until the case creaks. Carl says the client is Marcus Vell. And even you, in your parking garage, in your rattling apartment, in your whole narrow life, know who Marcus Vell is. You say yes before Carl finishes the sentence. You meet Vell's intermediary in a hotel bar the next morning. A woman named Sable, gray blazer, no jewelry, eyes that sweep a room the way airport cameras sweep a terminal. She slides a folder across the table without opening it. She tells you a journalist has material. She tells you the material is inaccurate and damaging. She tells you it must never reach an editor. She does not tell you what is in the material. She waits. You understand with total clarity that this is not an investigation. This is something else. And you open the folder anyway, because the number Carl quoted you is enough to pay off your mother's remaining treatment balance and still have 6 months of breathing room. And because you are 31 years old, eating gas station sandwiches in parking garages, and you are so tired of being powerless that a woman with no jewelry handing you a secret feels, in that moment, like being chosen. You are wrong about almost everything. But you are right that this is the moment your life divides. You find the journalist in 4 days. You don't touch him. You find his source instead. A former Vell Holdings compliance officer named Brenda Patel, who emailed drafts to a personal server, which she shared with her ex-husband, who shared it with a college friend, who passed it to the journalist over drinks. The chain is 6 people long. You sever it by calling Brenda's brother, who is 14 months from his mortgage being underwater, and presenting him with a number and a single sentence about what exposure of that chain would cost his sister. Brenda calls the journalist that afternoon and recants. The story dies. Sable wires the full retainer within the hour, and you sit in your apartment listening to the L train shake the window, and you realize you don't feel guilty. You feel effective. That is the first thing the work takes from you. The gap between those two feelings. Sable calls again in 3 weeks. Then again. Then the calls start coming from people who are not Sable. People who got your name from Vell's circle, which is the kind of circle where a single, useful whisper travels to rooms that cost more per night than you earn in a month. You tell yourself you are still an investigator. You are still just finding things. But the requests stop being about information and start being about outcomes. A lawsuit that needs to settle quietly. A regulatory inquiry that needs a key witness to reconsider. A business partner whose loyalty is wavering. You learn that most problems at this level are not complicated. They are simply about who is willing to make a phone call that an ordinary person would never make. You become extraordinarily willing. By year 2, you are making $400,000 annually, and you have moved into a high-rise with floor-to-ceiling glass and a kitchen you never use. You have a name inside this world now. The clients call you the Contractor. You did not choose it. It arrived the way most of your choices arrive now. As a fact, after the decision was already made, you have a burner phone rotation, a legal entity in Delaware, and a former federal investigator on retainer. For every third problem that involves a government agency, you have learned that billionaires do not have problems the way other people have problems. They have exposure, and exposure managed early enough is always cheaper than litigation, scandal, or regulation. Your job is to manage it early. Your job is to be the person who picks up before the bleeding starts. You are good at reading what a client actually needs versus what they say they need. A tech founder calls you in a panic about a former employee threatening to speak to journalists about internal safety data, and you listen for 4 minutes and understand it is not the data he fears. It is the board meeting in 6 days where 2 seats are contested, and he cannot afford distraction. You do not suppress the former employee. You time the settlement negotiation to land 48 hours before the board meeting. So the signed NDA is in the founder's pocket when he walks into that room. He wins the seats. He calls you a genius. You know you are not a genius. You are a person who pays attention to what is actually happening while everyone around you pays attention to what they are afraid of. By year 4, you carry 4 clients simultaneously and turn away 2 for everyone you take. You carry 2 phones and no personal social media presence. Your mother is in a private care facility in Evanston with a window that faces a garden, and when you visit her on Sundays, which you do still, without exception, she holds your hand and asks how work is going, and you tell her you're a consultant. And she nods in the way that mothers nod when they suspect more than they say. You drive back to the city afterward, and the skyline fills the windshield. And somewhere in the glass and steel of it, you have stopped being able to find the version of yourself that ate that gas station sandwich. You are not sure when exactly he disappeared. You are not sure you mourned him. The work escalates in ways that do not announce themselves. One client asks you to handle a situation in Geneva, another in Singapore. You develop a network, 8 people across 4 countries who carry your operational framework in their heads and ask nothing about where the instructions originate. You start seeing the same families appear across different clients' problems, the same political consultants, the same discreet attorneys, the same intelligence-adjacent intermediaries who are never quite retired. You understand you have stopped working for billionaires and started working inside the ecosystem that sustains them. You are infrastructure. You are load-bearing. The metallic taste arrives for the first time in year 5. You are in a hotel room in Dubai, managing a situation involving a sovereign wealth fund executive and a recording that should not exist. And a man whose name you will never know comes to your door and sets a hard drive on the desk and says, "There is another version of that recording you have not been shown. The version he has is worse." He represents someone who wants the problem handled differently than your client wants it handled. And you feel it then. Not fear, not conscience, but something physical, wet and iron-flavored, flooding the back of your throat, your own pulse in your teeth. You understand, for the first time, that you are not simply a person who solves problems. You are a problem that is being managed by people above you in a structure you cannot see the top of. You spend 4 hours in that room making calculations, and when you leave, you have negotiated an outcome. That satisfies your client, the unknown man's principal, and a third party you introduce into the arrangement to diffuse leverage. It is the most elegant thing you have ever done. It costs you something you cannot name, something located roughly behind your sternum, and afterward, you stand on the balcony above the city that never turns its lights off, and your chest feels like a room with the furniture removed. You make the call to your client at 3 a.m. You give him a number he will never question paying. You fly home in business class with a glass of water you don't drink and the window shade pulled down. And in the dark of that cabin, you perform the calculation that you began performing sometime in year 3 and have never finished. You try to enumerate all the things that are still yours, exclusively and genuinely yours, that have not been rented out, or reshaped, or made conditional by this work. The list is shorter than it was last time. Your mother's hand, Sunday drives, a jacket you bought before all of this that still smells faintly of the parking garage where your phone rang. You are worth $11 million. You have made 9 people sign documents that altered the course of their lives. You have prevented 2 trials, 4 regulatory actions, 1 foreign extradition, and a criminal complaint that would have destroyed someone's 3rd marriage. And 2nd company simultaneously. You have no criminal record. You have no public profile. You are, by every external measure, a ghost who has never done anything at all. And still, Sable calls. Or someone who is exactly like Sable calls, a different name, same gray blazer, same eyes moving through a room like a lens finding its focus. There is always another situation. There is always another exposure point that arrived too fast for anyone with a conscience to handle. The phone rings at 11 on a Tuesday night, and you answer it the way you always answer it. On the 2nd ring, voice level, pen already in hand. And somewhere in the city, in a parking garage, a man is eating a late dinner alone, watching someone who doesn't know he exists, and he thinks what he does is just pattern recognition. He thinks he is just watching. He does not know you are already aware of him. He does not know that you are why he matters. He does not know that useful people in this world do not get to stay ordinary for very long. You know this because someone knew it about you once and they were right. And the only thing you have never been able to fix is that. The phone is ringing. 2nd ring. You pick up.